Why does intermittent fasting not work sometimes? Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Fasting Frankie. If you recently started intermittent fasting and haven't seen the results you were hoping for, make sure to continue watching. I'll share 5 reasons your intermittent fasting results have not been as good as you may have expected and how to fix it. All right, let's jump right in. If this is your first time on my channel, I thank you for taking the time out to watch. It really means a lot to me. If you want to learn more about how intermittent fasting can help you lose fat, I would love it if you liked and subscribed to my channel. I'm going to assume you started IF but aren't seeing the results you were hoping for. It's possible with a few adjustments, you can be on track to lose the unwanted pounds you were hoping for. I'm going to share 5 reasons that can be sabotaging your intermittent fasting results and how to fix them in just a second. Before I do, I think the fact that you've taken the time to research why intermittent fasting is not working is a great sign and that you want to succeed. You're trying to make those adjustments or tweaks I'm always talking about, and good for you. If you're new to intermittent fasting, you might not be aware of the various ways you can incorporate fasting into your lifestyle. When I started IF, I only knew one way to fast. It wasn't until I started doing more research on intermittent fasting that I learned how flexible it was and how I had more options as I got better at it. For example, one of the most common ways to get started is by following the 16-8 fasting schedule. This is the fasting schedule I used to start, but as I learned more, I realized there were other ways to incorporate IF into my lifestyle. A few weeks after I started the 16-8 fasting schedule, I transitioned to OMAD, one meal a day. You'll need to start somewhere, and I suggest starting with the 16-8 schedule. It's probably the most popular one. If this seems too aggressive, lengthen the eating window of 8 hours to a length of time that is a little easier for you. If you can only fast for 14 hours or 12 hours, start there. The goal eventually is to eat a smaller amount of meals in a shorter period of time. This is what I did when I went from the 16-8 schedule to the OMAD, one meal a day schedule. If you just started fasting, take this day by day and let your goal be to increase your fasting window a little longer each day. It's essential to be honest with yourself here. If you're not hungry, don't eat. Don't eat out of habit, and if you're a coffee or tea drinker, make sure there's nothing in that coffee or tea that will break your fast. You shouldn't be starving, weak, or lack energy all the time. However, a little hunger is okay. If you're not seeing the results you hoped for, it's possible you are not spreading the meals apart far enough apart. If you lengthen the fasting window slowly, you may start to see the fat loss results you were hoping for. When I started the 16-8 fasting schedule, I would try to increase that fasting window from 16 hours and increase that fasting window just a little longer each day. Be patient with this process and also be honest with yourself. If you can increase that fasting window, you may be able to kickstart your fat loss. I would get excited when I felt I could wait a little longer to eat. I would tell myself that the longer I waited to eat, the more fat I was burning. No idea if this was actually true, but it kept the fork out of my mouth a little longer. Also, avoid eating out of boredom or habit, like I did most of my life. These habits take some time, especially if you've eaten poorly for quite some time, like I did. Okay, on to the next tip. I know when it comes to losing weight, most of us, if not all of us, want the results yesterday. And unfortunately, that's not the case. I can sometimes be impatient myself. However, this time around, I seem to be more patient. I think the fact that I was seeing results quickly helped me stay focused and on track. I was seeing results because I followed the very tips I'm laying out before you here today in this video. Again, if this is the type of content you're looking for, consider liking and subscribing to the channel. It would mean the world to me. You want to see results right away, and you're frustrated that your progress or lack of is slow. I get it, believe me. Is it possible that you haven't given intermittent fasting enough time to work? Remember, the goal of fasting is to transition our bodies to use our fat stores as fuel instead of glucose or the food that we just consumed. It may take a little more time for our bodies to transition over and become fat adapted. There may be some bumps along the way, but it's important to remain consistent. Once again, I would give your body some time to adapt and be patient with this process. Choose a fasting schedule and stick with it, making those adjustments or tweaks we spoke about earlier. We said moments ago that one of the goals of IF is to lengthen the fasting window. I also gave an example earlier in which I said I started with the 16-8 fasting schedule and transitioned to OMAD, or one meal a day. I've also stated in other videos that I didn't know everything on day one. However, one tip I implore you to incorporate right from the beginning is to stop snacking. We want to eat that last meal and get that fasting clock started as soon as possible. The quicker we burn through those food calories we just ate, the quicker we can start burning our fat stores. If we continuously eat and snack, we are constantly providing our bodies with food for energy and not allowing our bodies to burn fat. This process will not happen overnight, and it may take longer for some than others, but it should eventually work. And when it does, you should start seeing the fat loss transformation you were hoping for. I think 1 to 2 meals with no snacks and a shorter eating window can be very effective if you haven't tried that yet. Once again, you may have to work up to this, but you can do it and you may get here quicker than you may have imagined. If you had told me I would only be eating once a day and some days not at all, I would have thought you were crazy. In just a matter of a few weeks, I was doing just that. I always say progress, not perfection. Just keep trying and putting one foot in front of the other, and you'll get there. Pick a starting point and build on it. So now that we've stopped snacking, increased our fasting window, and given intermittent fasting more time to work, we should be on track to losing fat and feeling better. But what if intermittent fasting is still not working? I have one more powerful tip that just may be the solution. If you've implemented the previous 3 tips already, it may take longer for some than others, but you may have to make better food choices. And when it does, change the diet plan. Seeing the fat loss transformation. One very important distinction to make is that intermittent fasting 1 to 2 by itself is not a diet plan, and a shorter eating window is just what it sounds like. You fast intermittently. The goal is to decrease the amount of meals you eat, but you can simultaneously decreasing quicker than you may have imagined in which you eat those meals. If you had told me, for example, I would only how many of us would told today breakfast some days not at all and have snacks in between those meals? In just a matter of a few weeks, we are constantly spiking insulin. I always say progress, not perfection. Just keep trying and putting one foot in front of the other, your food intake and decrease your eating window, and still haven't had success. So now that we've stopped snacking, changing the food you eat. A few moments ago, I stated that intermittent fasting is not a diet. We should be on track to losing fat with any diet plan. Whether you're on a vegan, Mediterranean, fasting or carnivore diet, whatever. I have one more powerful IF into your lifestyle. Just may be the solution. But this video is about why intermittent fasting does not work. I feel that if you have a lot of fat to lose and intermittent fasting has not worked for you, you may want to consider a low carb or a keto diet plan. When I started intermittent fasting, I made sure to reduce my carbohydrates. I'm down to about 30 grams of net carbs per day, sometimes a little more, sometimes a little less. I feel the combination of the low-carb diet and the fasting is what allowed me to lose 40 pounds in 9 weeks after starting intermittent fasting. The reduction in carbohydrates and the increased fasting window will keep our bodies in peak fat-burning mode for longer periods of time. At least this is what I experienced. Too many carbohydrates, processed foods, and snacking may be keeping your insulin levels high, never allowing your body to tap into its fat stores. The last reason fasting may not be working for you is an underlying medical condition. Millions of people have benefited from fasting. However, fasting is not for everyone. You may have a medical condition that precludes you from fasting, and this may be the reason intermittent fasting is not working. I recommend consulting with a medical professional before starting a fasting program to ensure it is safe to begin. All right, and there you have it. I hope you learned something here today and that you'll implement some of these tips to kickstart your fat loss. I hope this video helped explain some of the reasons why intermittent fasting may not have been working for you. If you want to use intermittent fasting as a tool for fat loss, consider subscribing to the channel. I'll share my intermittent fasting fat loss transformation here with you with my monthly update videos. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss any new videos.